How is everyone doing out there? This is Robin Shums doing another live video. And why not? I'll just inspired again. A little bit off of what I normally do. But Starbucks is laying off, as we know before, they said it was. But this is a continuation of laying off 225 people working for Starbucks. And it is including people who said no to Nashville. Because we did know some time ago that they were moving to Nashville. Now we're getting a much bigger picture of what it's encompassing. It is a bigger picture than I even thought, but it should be. Why people are declining to go to Nashville? Because it's too far. That's one reason. And why should they change locations? Even if they can afford to move them to another location, people do not want to just necessarily pick up their, their bootstraps, pick up their boots, and retie them someplace else. But it's going to be a little bit different when you go from Seattle to Nashville. And they're going to do this. They have already started October 19th, and they're going to finish by November 1st. The whole thing should be done with that little bit, with just letting go of those 224 people. They were given a 60 days notice because, just like I said, we did talk about this once before, uh, kind of briefly, I think. But these will be permanent terminations. So, does that mean that they can all of a sudden move and quit and go back again? Probably not. At least that's what they say. Can they get hired for some other job in Seattle? I don't know. But according to what I see on the internet, I believe it's MSN, I'm putting it all together that they can't get their jobs back. They cannot get their jobs back. But my take is this. I lived in Tennessee as a young person, very young. I visited Nashville quite a few times because that's where my family was originally from. But we're all out here in California. Most of us have passed on to another place. They're not here on Earth. Well, they're here on Earth, but also in the sky. But I know about Nashville, Tennessee a little bit, going back and forth there. It's not necessarily a very big state. It's a long state. They have a lot of opportunity there, and they do have a lot of spaces, a lot of open land spaces. They're building new homes there. There have been new homes there for a very long time. When everyone started building these new type homes, businesses, as we heard in the news, have been moving there off and on. Tax considerations and other things. Companies threatening to move to Nashville, even though some of our early, I guess some restaurants and donut shops have moved from Nashville to California in their expansionism. But now Seattle wants to move to Nashville. And I guess the economists are still asking, why do you want to move to Nashville when it's basically the same thing in Seattle? Why do you want to do that? Because of the global market, things are a little bit closer. According to Google, as I just lost my, so why Starbucks is expanding to Nashville. Of course, I'm getting this from Google. I'm just going to lightly go over it. Strategic goal. What did I just say? That's one thing about life. Strategic, strategic growth, they say. Better proximity to all the suppliers and all this type of stuff. Okay, so they're going to have to supply things on the East Coast. But they still want to keep the Seattle functions there. But they want this East West connection. They want to bring things up into the middle, closer to clients or new clients in that sector of the United States. The business climate is better, is what they said. The environment. No state personal tax. Didn't I just say that? 30 million state economic incentive. Now they think the talent pool is growing there. Will the talent pool be a little bit better? Maybe. More than likely, yeah, because it's untapped. So you're going to get a talent pool. And then again, the people who said yes to Nashville, moving from Seattle or from other various places to Nashville, are very talented indeed, I bet. And so, therefore, they can inspire other talented people on the East Coast to come work for them. Because they are going to be hiring some more people if they already haven't done it so already. So, as a layoff, they're hiring in new positions. And that's not too much different from any other company. They said the global headquarters stays in Seattle. Seattle's going to remain their primary goal, or their primary global and North American headquarters. They're going to be outsourcing the supply chain, and the title of that is Relocation and Structuring, and it's going to be permanent home. Starbucks said well, Google said that they have at least 250,000 square feet. So therefore, they are probably, what I'm seeing here is some places going to be leased and some they probably already built or are building. They probably already finished building a lot of places as I talk about this, because this was a few months ago, I believe, that we talked about them, or they said something about them moving to Nashville. But yeah, Nashville is a pretty big place when you're talking about country. They're tearing down all those trees there. Of course, they're going to have to worry about those locust type bugs every 16 to 18 years there. Have you ever been there before with all the locusts there flying around and you just squish squash and they just land on you, just knocking them away from you? I didn't know that until I went back to Nashville. As a young child, I didn't know about no locusts every 18 years, and it didn't come when I was there as, as a very young person. But after I lived out here for some years, decades, and then go back and visit, it just so happens that I learned something new about these flying bugs. I'm calling them locusts. I forget what they call them, but they fly, they get in the way, they they land on power lines, they land on anything, uh, your front door. They come out of the ground. They're in the trees. then the pole, power pole, the lighting pole, they everywhere, and then they go away. I even watched them hang onto a plane as we took off from the Nashville airport until I saw the last bug fall off the wing. Isn't that disgusting? But I'm talking about over 30 years ago. But they still do come out every 16 to 18 years. And of course, the lightning bug. If they still have fireflies, we call them lightning bugs. So, what, you're going to have lightning bugs, fireflies in your coffee from now on? Perhaps. I don't know. But also, what I did find out also, too, that China is the second most biggest market for Starbucks. China first opened one up in 1999, and they have 7,300 stores in China. Their target is 9,000 stores, it says here. The U.S. has 16,730 stores. And then they have like 8,700, around 8,700 plus of small markets, small stores in different parts of the Asian countries and other countries in that part of the world. And also, I'm also finding out that Starbucks is having some competition because they are teaming up with other coffee companies and roasters. In some way, they are using the roasters there in China. The other, there are different name coffee stores there that I'm not going to get into. But we did talk about that a little bit. But China has a big market, coffee, and I'm also finding out that a lot of people there are not too fond of Starbucks. So therefore, they will have more competition there. Because Starbucks are buying stores there, other, other stores that are supplying their products, and also buying stores under their umbrella and probably under the name. There are quite a few of them. But I'm sticking with Starbucks. I'm going to stick with Starbucks, but I'm not necessarily the right person to want to stick with Starbucks forever. There are other coffee companies out there, even though Starbucks is my main one. There are other ones out there, and you have to be cautionary sometimes because there are a lot of places you travel. There are a lot of places you travel, even in the United States, that you won't see a Starbucks. And sometimes when you make the right stop, there are other coffee companies there. But 9 times out of 10, whenever I travel, I usually do stop at a Starbucks. And if they don't have one, then I will try some other one. It's just a natural coffee habit. The other companies are still rivals here in the United States. Some are local, some are big, but not as big as Starbucks. And sometimes when you see a company as big as Starbucks, which is doing great so far in benefits, pay, and it's still going through these changes, you have to wonder, Will they go down like all these other companies overnight if they made a bad mistake? Will we be able to live without a Starbucks if something happened to them in 10 years or 5 years or 1 year or 6 months or a week or next day? We just don't know. But even though I'm with Starbucks, I do have other ones to fall back on. And if you follow me, you know that I tried the other ones out. I'm not going to give out their names right now because that's going to be on another video coming soon that I inspired to talk about in a different kind of way. But this video happened to me while I'm doing my other job, inspired about what's happening with YouTube when they're talking about views, impressions, the 20 million shorts, the 1,000 subscribers. All those things come into play. I'm nowhere near there. But I am still inspired to go ahead and post. That's what a lot of people are saying these days. Or should I say, upload, upload, and uplift. I can't worry about people swiping left, swiping right. I'm here to inspire in certain kind of ways. I don't think I'm sounding kind of conceited or anything like that. I am just blessed that I can still come online and talk for other people like myself. I don't have to be anything special but me. So I might as well take a chance and talk about things maybe beyond what I can talk about, a little bit off the cuff, taking a few notes here and there, using my pad again just to explain different kind of things, mixing it up, starting it over. This is Robert A. Shaw. I'll see you on my next video. I know they said sometimes, leave a comment, but or me leaving a comment, what you ought to think. I think that's up to the individual, whether they want to subscribe or talk or whatever. Like I said, I could be doing a whole bunch of other things. That was a long pause there. I'm trying not to long pause because everything I do is off the cuff because I know many people can't do it. But to mix in the realization that companies like Starbucks, like any other company, have to constantly change. And if they have to lay off employees just to hire other employees for different type of tactics to stay current in this social economic climate, then that's what it is. Remember the stores that we still talk about. Remember the restaurants that we still talk about. that are no longer with us now. They look like they were strong, they got strong names, they lasted for a while. Some stores lasted for the 80s, 90s, 30 years or more. 30 years or more, if you've been around that long, stores have come and gone. Even these so-called discount stores, all the other big discount stores, have changed names. Some of them I joined, then all of a sudden a year they're gone. But there's another one that takes its place. They touting not paying too much for items, grocery items, clothes. We know that's not true. There still is an uptick, and inflation and wages is still not equal to what it is. That's all I'm going to say about this right now. I did give my name. How about again? Robert Shaw. I'll see you in my next video. If you ever been to Nashville, drop me a note. I came out here via Greyhound bus, third grade, California, from Nashville. Wasn't born in, but most of my family was. And I always say about where or Brooklyn, New York. So lived in Brooklyn, lived in Nashville. Visited both as an adult, but I was not involved in coffees the way I am now. I'll see you in my next one. Take care, folks. Have a great one.